Okay, so here we're going with the final stop ground, and I gotta I'm having trouble monitoring the camera. Knowing that I can do so makes it likely that I will. Uh, but what do we have going on? We already started, it ran around once. Some of the key things being purchased were Boston and Albany's seemed like a deal. There were a number of shares of that in the open market, and also a couple in here. It's got a 6 train. It's got good track. It's hard to tell what the actual routes are going to be. And of course, the AP thing to do would be to pre-calculate all the routes, and not AP, but the full analysis thing. I'm not going to call this AP because it's not. This is what you really should be doing if you want to optimize your winning chances. People call this AP. I don't. I call that, analyzing the game at the cost of the other players. AP is really something different where you can't make up your mind and you just get in a lock. And you should, I don't know what the answer is, to tell you the truth, because I get there where I'm like, geez, I can't tell what's going on and I can't make the analysis steps. But I think I should be able to. This is the final stock round, so it is kind of important. There's going to be 3 operating rounds between it. There's not going to be a lot changing. Nobody's starting a new company. That does not look to be particularly feasible. Some of the players, well, one of them, has a full portfolio that he can't do a whole hell of a lot with. I've got 5 shares of the Arcade and Attic. I can't really afford to sell one, or else I might be giving up my president's certificate there. I've got some really nice Pittsburgh and Lake Erie. Maybe not the best thing on the board. The Union is the best company because it's going to have 2 trains and have a big run. But none of those are going to change hands. After purchase of Boston and Albany's, we saw Warren and Trumbull's going. They're also a high-valued stock. They started very high. You'll notice the spaces are large on that side of things. On the other hand, they may not go forward all 3 times. That's the problem with them, with the Pittsburgh, with these high-valued stocks, as opposed to, say, the Arcade and Attica, which is probably going to be going forward 2 each time, although it does have some loan leveraged against it. And then, as we work down here, this guy, we'll call him player number 3. 1, 2 is missing, 3, has a little bit of a cash shortage, and instead of buying he did I think he kicked things off and bought a Boston and Albany, but after that he's kind of been in this, well, I don't really want to spend the big money. The New York and Susquehanna is an interesting purchase. It's possible that there's an extra train coming into the Warren and Trumbull with all that money that's going on there. That's tight. But if that happens, I can't be sure where that's going to end up. So having a second share of the New York and Susquehanna, which is only selling at 110, might be good. It's also a pretty decent run. The 2 companies with a 6 train and the company with a 7 train. Well, there's only one thing that's available to him. But there's 2 companies with a 6 train out there. The Boston and Albany, which is selling at 165, and the Warren and Trumbull, which is selling at 270. If you're short on cash and he still has some stock, some certificate locations, buying the Susquehanna seemed like a good deal. And it's thrown more money on here, making it more likely for a cross-corporation train purchase. If that happens, So here's the problem with that. If this guy screws up, we'll call him player 5. If he screws up, he'll end up hurting himself with one or both companies by trying to swap trains around so that he can get enough cash to buy, that big $1,100 hit. But if he manages his 2 companies well, I'm probably okay buying this. I guess that's about all I want to say for now. Second time around, most of the game is going to be spreadsheeting after this, so there's not a whole lot to talk about. The Warren and Trumbull has sold out enough shares that they have enough cash to just buy a train on their own. The iffy thing there is they really do not have the dots to support this. They're running 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That train is probably going to go over to the Susquehanna. And now the people who bought up 2 shares of Warren and Trumbull each, putting that cash in there, each have a share of Susquehanna, but overall this is going to be to player 5's advantage, and maybe a little bit here to player 3. Another thing to take into consideration when you're looking at this final round is the debt load and what its impacts are. And its impacts aren't straightforward. So like the Arcade in Attica has a lot of debt load. It is going to be half swallowing. That's a guarantee. But it's at a very low rate. It might go forward too. And then those half swallows might pay off debts and increase its share value even more. So, the fact that it's half swallowing may not impact what it's putting out. It'll impact the amount of cash you get per share, but it won't impact it'll actually positively impact the share value. So it becomes kind of this complicated, and again, when things get too complicated like this, then I know that I can't figure them out easily at all. I throw away my AP and I go to, making this video about AP for some reason, I go to I'll go with my gut on this. I think I understand what the mechanisms are going to be, and I do not want to calculate them. But simpler things I feel like I can calculate that other people are capable of calculating and I can't. What other factors? Well, the Susquehanna's got a debt. It can almost certainly pay that debt off. So it's going to gain another share value. The Pittsburgh and Erie probably is not, and in fact, it may incur debt if it's not careful, which makes for a little balance. And hey, maybe those shares in that are not the most worthwhile thing to be holding, dude. Hard to tell. And again, so there's a lot more to assess here than just, hey, what's the root? What's the value of the share? You know, is it going to pay out or not? The 1830 style game endgame is really limited to how much will I gain from each payout between here and what the payout marker is on, which isn't there, but you can calculate, right? Here it's much more complicated. There's just so many things to take into account. How much is it able to pay out full, or will it be paying out half? How many spaces will it go forward in each payout? And what's the impact of that debt load on it? And what can it do about it? All right. And we've passed around. For whatever reason, the Elgin and Joliet is the unattractive choice. I can see why. It high stock value, and out of the high stock values, it has the least train. In fact, this guy, player 3, was forced to pretty much buy a Westchester because nobody sold another Arcade in Attica. I would have bought that up if I could have. I think that's more attractive than the Westchester, to tell you the truth. Hard to tell, but the price and the debt ratio and all that works out to something. So now we finish up by looking at what's sold out. And these two sold out. This, of course, sold out. There's 2 shares of the Joliet sitting in there. Wow. Those turned out to be a really bad investment. Is there anybody who is sitting on one who should have bought something else? Probably him. Oops. The Boston is sold out. The Westchester is not. The Susquehanna is. And the Arcade in Attica is. Interesting. So yeah, the Elgin and Joliet, the fact that there were shares sitting in the bank pool should have made him close out that share, especially since he had handed priority away anyway. What could he have bought with it? Well, That was a valuable thing. It was 245 bucks. I had another 150, but there's nothing else available. I would have been basically trading this in for some cash and a share of Westchester. Hard to tell, you know, because the Westchester is really, really stuck in a stupid location. And that is those are the only two companies that had shares open. Okay, that puts us into the op round. What I'm going to do before I go to the op round is I want to place this 1, 2, and at the end of this round we'll be stopping. That'll help remind me of what's going on there, although I'll actually throw it down near the stock round so that I remember not to do that. First real decision point is on the Pittsburgh. Has a lot of training and can't really get anywhere with it. I'm running 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'll eventually be able to boink this in and either go back here or cut over there, and it's all the same. There's just no real edge anywhere. So I'll be able to add another $4 to the run, and then this can go up by 1. So $5 more. Its current run is 420 though. Dude, I could have. I chose to pay out, which moves me forward one big space. The problem with the high price. I could have paid out half, not gone forward, and dealt with my loans, but I had enough cash on hand that I didn't have to take an additional loan. And my payoff's going to be able, well, my half pay is going to be able to pay off a loan. that was the kind of thing I could kill both loans with one payoff. Next time, $210, that's not going to be able to get rid of both loans unless the interest rate goes down significantly. Say the Arcade and Attica manages to kill a lot of loans at once. Warren and Trumbull is basically designed for that 6 train. It took me a little work to find what I had built out, but it's going 1, 2. Keep an eye on what I do here because this is where it gets funky. 3, 4. Whee! Wait. I thought I had a 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sorry. Whee! And now here I'm crossing track that I did not use before. So that ends up 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. And that runs for 336. Now I could run this big 8 train I just bought with it across some other track, I'm sure. But there ain't a lot left, you know. I've used up so much track with that 6 train that I built up that I think I need to get that 8 over on the Susquehanna, and that's going to be the monster. And the people who threw the money in it are probably kicking themselves at this point. I mean, it was a good buy compared to other things, but they really did open things up so that Susquehanna shares became really valuable. Could be the difference between, you know, this guy being able to push player 5, being able to push a victory out of this. We'll see. The Union still has its 8 train to buy too. Union, a little bit of thought here. That I kind of did on gut and realized I did it right. Paid out full, which went at 43, 430. That would move the marker up, but then I had to take out a loan to buy the 8 train. Now, was this a good or a bad move? Well, with the interest rate at $10 each, I stayed steady. I would have stayed steady if I paid out half. I'm never going to pay off that loan, but in the next 2 operating rounds, you know, I can pay the interest on my loan out of the corporate treasury. So that doesn't cost me anything. So I stayed in the same place that I would be in if I paid out half, but I made a full 43 per share instead of the 22 or whatever I would have been getting. So this was a wise move. You know, again, I could see screwing that up really easily. So now we have two companies that have two trains on them. And so that means, because they just picked them up, these values aren't fixed. This and the Susquehanna are going to have significantly different runs. The Susquehanna hasn't gone yet, but the Union is going to get a much larger run than that 43. And it's going to be a headache to figure out. See, the Joliet and the Boston and Albany settle in. The Joliet 400. Boston and Albany only 370 running a 6 train. Why is it so shitty? That's a good question. I'm running 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hitting a lot of those 40 buck areas, but they're boosted. All but one of them is a 50 actually. Whereas the Joliet was running through with its 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I could just go there, or I could zoom up here. 5, with a lot more of the 80s being hit. The poor Boston just does not hit the good stuff. It really kind of shows the value. I'm not even sure of that. So, I mean, the Joliet, I think, got this dot, maybe? And this one, I think, popped into. But these were kind of its home area. It's just got a really pretty compact line set up. I feel like I gotta recalculate these suckers. I'm coming up with 42 on the Joliet instead of 40 on that 5 train. What happened with the Joliet is I wasn't counting. Well, no, I was like only $2 short. Yeah, I don't know what the hell I was doing, but this track was all in place, and I think I was just screwing something up, because I can clearly run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and somehow I think I was missing something. I was skipping going here, but maybe, no, I think what happened, I don't know, maybe what happened was I skipped here instead of here, went there instead. But I don't need to. I've got the capability to zoom around. Or I could just hit fucking Chicago, whichever one, it doesn't make a difference. So I gave out the extra couple bucks a share because I think that was just a calculating error. Onward to the tiny little Westchester. That thing stuck at 26 a share, and I mean, I could conceivably add another, actually 18 maybe, if I run here and then up this way with some different track to that if I bought another train. Obviously I don't have money to make a train, but I've got enough shares in here, and I'm starting to collect some cash and start thinking along those lines. Hey, what's going to happen? Well, I'm getting about $100 around. It's going to take me 7 more rounds, 6 more rounds to get to the kind of calculation where I really might want to do that, but I could take out a shitload of loans. and get another train on the Pittsburgh. I don't think it's worth doing. I don't feel like trying to calculate it out too much. It just doesn't seem like the right thing to do. So we're going to hold off on that. But the Pittsburgh's going to have to swallow anyway to get rid of its loans. So I don't know. Jeez. I mean, I want to do it now if I'm going to do it, right? So the Pittsburgh was running at around 42. I'm going to probably end up, because this is going to be half swallowing it. I don't know. No, I don't want to do it now. I definitely don't want to do it now because the Pittsburgh is going to be half swallowing again, unless I'm throwing money around that's useful. Gosh. No, I do want to get it now because I want the train now if I get it. So I could pick up 8 loans. They're only $10 each right now. Gosh. And the Pittsburgh could buy that train. Now, 8 loans is going to put me up to about $20 each, say. Which means I'll owe 160. I'm making 260. I think I'm going to do it. I think I'm going to do it for the simple reason that I don't feel like this mechanism is working well enough for me. You know, of course, a 7 and an 8 on the Pittsburgh. What the fuck am I going to do with that? Like, I'm having trouble with the 7, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, I just don't have the space to run these trains. The Susquehanna might be good with its 2 trains. I'm not convinced the Pittsburgh is. So yeah, I'm just going to hold off. Leave that cash there. Because I just don't think that I have an opportunity for a really good run. I'm heading through here, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then somewhere for 7. And that means my second run, if I'm going to hit New York, would have to cut out maybe this way. 1, 2, and this isn't very good. Or I could maybe cut one down this way and one down this way. So that would actually make more sense. So I'd be looking at a 1, 2, 3, 4 run. That's a lot of train to be getting an extra 4. And that extra 4 would run me, say, let's just assume everything goes perfect, right? 180, 220, 240, let's call it for now. Another 32, which is nice and everything, but I don't know if it's worth swallowing heavily with the Westchester, which is not capable, like with half swallows, it's not capable of moving forward too, which means with half swallows I'll be staying here on stock value. So I think I'm best off just leaving this alone. Susquehanna runs for 43 with just the 5 train. Nice track, right? And it's not bad for the 8 as well. So it's going to look like the 5 is going to run up this way, and the 8's going to run down this way, possibly. I hate to give this up. If I was running the 5 up this way, I don't have to worry about that. So I can come down, over. Hey, there's a little problem there. Crappies. I may have to... my big problem is actually number of city is hitting a good number of cities. So I can kick from one of these. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'll be missing that, which is a shame. But then I can cut up 7, 8. I can't go up through here because I'm using that track, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. So I think I think this is the best. It hits the most cities. The thing is, this is worth 80, which is, what my little work to get around here is worth. So I'm not gaining anywhere near as much as I'd like to. But if I could hook up into there, I'd get kind of golden. Arcade was in just such a sweet position. Sitting here on the 70, I made $300. I pay out half. That gets me 2 stock locations. and enough cash to pay off one of my loans. So, 15 a share plus $30 in stock value for a kind of low valued company. That's really nice. I'm going to be paying out half every time, and I'm not going to make those kind of jumps because even at $10 loans, I still don't have very much space there, but it fueled that 8 train for the Union, and that's sweet. And I mean, the juggling of trains back and forth and everything, it had some cost. What we see here is a couple $1,000 in cash for him, 1,500 over here though for the guy with the Susquehanna. So that heavy investment in the Warren and Trumbull, that may just push him player 5 ahead of player 4 as it goes. I don't think anything can happen in the mergers of acquisitions. I mean, somebody could offer a company up for sale, but that just sounds, I don't know. I have trouble understanding how to make that work in and of itself. And at this point in the game, where all your certificates are already, you're at your certificate limit and everything. Yeah, first of all, I don't think any company has the kind of cash to pay for any of the corporations. So let's say the Arcade and Attica went up. Well, that's $1,000. Okay, that's what you have to raise. Now you could take it in loans, but it's already got $300 of loans, and the other companies are all much more expensive. And so, I mean, maybe somebody would offer this and say, yeah, I'll take that cash if you want to cripple your company. I don't know. But no, it would be bad for both sides, right? The person buying it would get crippled by it, and the person offering it for sale would lose the incremental adjustments that they're going to get. Everything's stable and set. So we can just skip that M&A because everybody's at 10 shares. Nothing's in the bad zones. And we're on our way. Not quite spreadsheet yet. We got new trains, some new track builds being made, etc. And so I'm just handing out the cash. I find it easier when games don't completely lock in. Wow, we got a token space over here. It's really hard to get to. There's a couple tokens still flying out there. You'll see someone was a dick. Well, the Joliet was a dick here. That doesn't do them any good, but it prevents other companies from running through that kind of neat space if they have extra trainage. Okay, so the Pittsburgh, which is my pen stand in here, it's kind of big enough. Built up its track for the 7 run coming down to wherever. I mean, well, I can't hit this again. So that's pretty much the only place. That ends up as a 47 run, and I don't think that can improve. I had to take out a loan to build this piece of track. Nobody built it for me. I was hoping. And that means that I have to pay interest on the loan, but interest is little, and I lost some stock position due to the loan, so it was the same as if I paid out half, except that I needed the money up front to be able to build the track. So no reason to try to pay off those loans, I don't think. Actually, that's wrong. A half swallow might make sense at some point to try to pay off the loans because I'll get more stock value off pushing the loans out. The $100 per loan that I'm making is not worth. So let's say I half swallow next time. I'll be able to pay off 2 of those loans. That'll get me 2 stock positions, whereas I only will go up 1 for paying out. And the jumps are quite high here, so I want to clear out my loans. mountains. But I don't need to do it yet. I've got some space because I do have some cash after taking out a loan. The Warren and Trumbull gets itself up to 37, obviously paying out, jumps forward a space. It's going to stop at 400 for whatever that's worth. Spent some of the cash that I had left over on there to build an extra track, not just through the mountains, but actually a second track lay because I needed the buck extra for this. That's track for the Susquehanna. I don't know if it's going to work out, but I got to get it laid quickly, and I can't get where I really want to down here where the Susquehanna has to lay track. It also has cash on board, so it'll be able to make double track lays as well. 2 5 trains for the Union was easy enough. A 5 and an 8 not so easy, and I think I'm gonna be spending some time figuring this one out. Well, that was kind of obscene. I broke the chart. It paid out 880. Let me see where the runs are. One coming down this way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the other one heading up this way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Totally legal. 6, 7, 8. No room, no dot or anything like that to put in there, so I could lose some value there. I laid one track. I did not lay an upgrade. For 20 bucks I could lay an upgrade, but see, here's the thing. If I can get this set up right, I could be running the 5 out of here. I'm trying to think how I did this. If I get it worked right, I can run 2 parallel trains. One running, it's going to have to come down. Yeah, no, that doesn't work. How did I get out of here? Uh-oh. I have to go through here with the 8, which means the 5 will have to come down through here. Now, the 8 is running down this way, which means this track couldn't be used by the 5. So I don't think I can help myself too much. I'm looking to see if I could get a second line of track through here because it's physically possible still, but I don't think it actually helps the Union. Anyway, 88 a share, pushing it way out there, and I'm betting the Susquehanna is going to do better than that. So that's some serious money, and I don't know what the hell this is doing there. I'm pretty sure at 41 or 42, but I don't know which. Well, again, these dots down here didn't pay off as well as those dots up there. The Susquehanna only made 84 a share. There may be a better run in there. I wouldn't be shocked at all. I'm basically running this, and then from here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's a lot of 40s I'm hitting in there, or close enough to, and I'm unable to take advantage of all this centralization there that I would have liked to have done. But the problem is my dots down here, I don't need to hit them, but I need 8 cities. Is the tricky thing. I may find a better run. Let me see if I can recalculate one that maybe hits better using less cities, because I'm hitting a lot of iffy cities. But again, you know, this counts as 2 of those 40s. So I could easily drop this, which is 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, to curve through there. But then I can't hit this because it goes the wrong way. Well, I was able to actually match and then beat by upgrading this, the Union Railway, and get up to 89 a share. And then I spent some extra cash to build track coming down here. Let's see what I'm doing. I'm doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down to there. Skipping, not hitting as many of those littler places. And then from here, 1, 2, 3, that little trick is nice. 4, 5, 6, and then back around this way to 7. I've still got space for another city that I can hit. What city could that be? Yeah, so this might not be the wisest piece of track. And that's kind of the thing is, I only can build very limited places because I used my upgrade already. I could build here, but I've decided that doesn't look like it helps me. So I think this comes the closest to doing me any good in terms of little places where I can stick track out of legally. I really don't see many. So yeah. But what I'd like to do in the end is figure out a way, and I mean maybe there is one. Hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How do I get back? 6. Loop around. Can't go this way, but I could come down this way, and I'm not going to be able to go back over that track, but there may be a way if I hook this up where I'm able to hit another city, basically trying to get this into play instead. I don't think it looks too likely though. Behind that, not much. The Westchester just runs whatever the hell it does. It built up Indianapolis, I think. Maybe the Arcade. No, the Arcade and Acadia did that. I don't know what's up with this. The Susquehanna jumped it. We already talked about it. That's what's up with it. The Arcadia built up Indianapolis and paid out half so that I could pay off a loan and gain 2 spaces, which is what I would have gained by paying out full. What's the difference? I needed the money. Yeah, I needed the money so that I could afford my loan payments. I think I was getting close. Otherwise, I'd probably just want to pay off full, get my spaces from that, and then get the loan spaces when it's harder. Of course, I'm paying interest, which is harder to do, which is the effect there. That gets us to an M&A. Nothing's going to happen there. No stock round. We're at the last round of the game. And we can see stack of 500s is about equal. Stock value. Well, the W&T, this Warner and Trumbull, is running pretty close. It's running above the Union, and he has 6 shares above those. And then we look at the secondaries, and the Susquehanna is well ahead of the Arcade. However, he has 3 shares of this Pittsburgh, which is way up there. He has a share of Union to make that up. It's going to be a close run. It really is between those two. Is there anybody else who's liable to be pulling something off? I don't think so. I don't see a stack of 500s, anything like that on anyone. And these guys have good stock value. I mean, you look at like the Pittsburgh. Yeah, he's got okay stock value on one of his companies, but some of the others maybe not so much. He's got an iffy line down here, not as bad as the Arcadia. Right now my bet's on the Susquehanna. Player 5 there. Pulling this off because you want me to name people, so numbers are as good as names, right? Alright, I don't think I'm going to finish this up tonight. Tomorrow, even though it's Saturday, because there's no more dancing. Stupid Corona shit. Yeah, it's wise. The rates are even going up here. The positivity rate had been like 1% last week, according to the docs I was looking at, but it's up there with the rest of Oregon now. And I think what I was looking at was mistaken, although it claimed to be updated every 24 hours or whatever, and it's from the government. I'm seeing very different looking numbers for last week from the government, so maybe they were not updating as much as they claimed they were. Who knows? Anyway, because of that, and Sunday's supposed to rain, tomorrow's supposed to be bitterly cold, like probably around freezing when I leave. But yeah, it's bitter for me. I'm a wuss now. Phoenix did that to me, man. Yeah, so tomorrow I'll probably end up finishing it up, but we can't be sure. And then I got something else. But I really ought to be playing. I got these damn computer games I gotta get through. And then I've got other computer games I want to play. And not that I video them or whatever, but it's a less social experience. All right, enough babble. Oh, never enough babble. I lied. This is game related though, so. But not directly on this. It has to do with the people who bought the Warren and Trumbull shares. What did they do? Now, if they had a full view of the game, I think their decision was reasonable. They were buying additional shares that are going to make them money, that are better than anything else they can do. They wanted to sell out so the stock value goes up. In terms of their placement, it was a good move. But again, I've played with people who don't think you should make a move that affects the ultimate winner of a game. So like if they see it as a competition between these two players, let's call them 4 and 5, we're going, by buying those Warren and Trumbulls, they gave this train to the Susquehanna. There was no way player 5 could reasonably get that train without players buying up those highly expensive stock shares. Wow, they've gotten way up there. That are going to make them money, maybe more than anything else, but you got to kind of pay in to that idea of, well, who is this helping? Why? What does it impact? Etc. Obviously, this guy saw the writing on the wall better than the people who bought the Warren and Trumbulls. But I've played with people who think that you shouldn't, and this just 18xx makes it so clear that you can't play that way. That like you shouldn't take an action that will affect who the ultimate winner is if you're not in the running for the ultimate winner. And you have to take actions, and you have to kind of, I think, in almost any game, have to kind of view some kind of secondary thing to this binary, I won the game, i.e. I came in first, versus, I placed in a good position. These guys made good decisions from their own financial standpoint. But they made decisions that handed the game to one of the players. Now, you could make the argument that this player, by making that Warren and Trumbull, in a sense, was making an offer. Hey, you guys want to do a little better proportionally to everyone else? Help me out here. Of course, none of that thinking was going on in my head. I was just buying up stocks that looked attractive without too much thought of the effect. And you notice this guy did not buy those Warren and Trumbulls. Maybe he should have when he saw other people buying them. Nah, he had more interesting stuff. His decision was locked in by what he had. And really, it was just, comes down to a question of, did you want the Warren and Trumbulls, or did you want the slightly less valuable Westchesters, which, if you buy them, maybe you're buying a train for the Pittsburgh and Erie. And instead of this player 5 being liable to win, you might be making the Pittsburgh and Erie player come in second. I doubt that he could have gained enough ground to get the victory. Or you could buy the significantly less effective Elgin and Joliets, which... yeah, I don't know. And in either of these cases, the Warren and Trumbull and the Westchester, There was some possibility the owner doesn't want to shift trains around. A low possibility. The Westchester probably would not have funded another railway. But again, it is clearly less valuable. You could make an argument that the Elgin and Joliet is more valuable than the Warren and Trumbull. That's certainly a possible case. That was harder to see because it had some loans on it. It was clear it was going to swallow a little bit. Whatever. So anyway, I want to try to justify the philosophy that I think comes natural to anybody who's playing an 18xx or an economic game of, well, yeah, I mean, obviously, maybe I want to come in first in terms of money, but that's the game. Outside of the game, there's something else going on here, and if I come in second, that's definitely worth something. Where in other games, it's maybe not so clear. If I come in second in victory points, did I place? Is that really an important thing? You know, maybe, maybe not, and you have to kind of look at context. But in the context of an economic game, well, I made almost as much money as the winner. I'm almost in first place, you know? It's like, it's very clearly the subject matter informs, you know, the sort of victory conditions. In fact, you could kind of question, does it really matter if you come in first and or second in a close game at all? And I would say, yeah, you know, I mean, if I'm fighting neck and neck with someone, and like I did in one game, come within $1 of them for first place, it feels equivalent. You've probably made mistakes one way or another that are worth more than the difference. You know, even if you're looking at $100 difference, there's a good chance somebody made a mistake that's worth that much. Pushed a couple out. Warren and Trumbull ran full, same value, 37. Didn't really have much to do. I don't know. Maybe I can lay some track for the Susquehanna. I should go back and think about that. Pittsburgh ran half so it could pay off a couple of loans, which got its stock value up. Again, you know, I mean, if I paid out full, I would have been able to stay where I would have made 40 less bucks per share in stock value, but I would have made 23 more bucks per share in payout. You know, you just make those balances, and I do that almost automatically. I didn't even think about it, but now I calculate it out, and I'm like, yeah, I made the right decision. Neat. Which is kind of cool, because it gives me a little bit more acceptance of my, let me not think. I am going to look back at the Warren and Trumbull, see if it can do something for the Susquehanna, because that has one hell of a track setup. Okay, the B&O was able to get to 93 a share. That's almost as high as I've seen stupendously good routes in 1830 get to. I've seen bigger routes happen, but again, that kind of indicates that, hey, this chart ain't big enough for the end of the game for those couple of companies that get way up there. And I was a little worried about that. That 85 seemed a little low. What did I do? I ran down here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the other side, good God. I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And that, I don't see a place where I could increase the value. The Warren and Trumbull did not place a dot here because I guess it doesn't really matter, but it was possible maybe somebody else could place one, and the B&O goes first. There are other companies that could stop things, but honestly, I just don't think the dot could have mattered anyway at this point. Last turn it could have mattered. Paid out full, left my loan in place because I managed to go forward twice, paying out full. I would have only gone forward once, paying out half. So I make the same stock value as I would paying out the loan, or paying off the loan, but I made better cash value on them. Look at that stack of 500s, Jesus. Well, we'll see what the Susquehanna does. It might be just as big. It's got... Before it had... well, I don't know which has better track, but the... I'm sorry, the Union, not the B&O. This heavy surrounding of New York just meant that I could come out of there every which way. The Susquehanna does not have that capability. It really has 2 exits from New York. And it doesn't have, the capacity to hit these cities twice or anything like that. I have a lot more flexibility with the Union. On the other hand, I worked my ass off trying to figure out how I got to 42 on the Joliet. I don't see it. I see a 40 run. 1, 2, 3. That gets me to 260 on 3 trains. On 3 of my 5. Maybe I thought I had more train than I did. I come to here and I have the choice basically of hitting an 80 and something else that is not this. It's got to go this way, so it's an 80 to 40, which is 12. That gets me to 38. Or I can hit here and then one of the 2 big cities, and that's so what did I say, 26 plus 14 is 40, and I don't see another way around that. I mean, my only exit is up here, right? I'm hitting the 100 is my best place. I must hit that. I hit 3 80s, and then the next best thing I can do is the 60. I'm trying, if I could zoom through, not hit this, but wrap around here somehow. But there's just not enough track to do it, and there's no way across without going through Toronto, which would cut my prices. So, yeah, I just do not see it. Trying to figure out what I might have thought I saw, but I think I screwed up. So anyway, that paid out, and onward. Susquehanna slips in just behind the Union at 92, 920. Good God. And maybe there's a little bit better, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for the short train, and then can't hit here again, unfortunately. Actually, no. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oop. Uh-oh. I needed to upgrade track there. You know what? I think I'm $20 over because I ran up into one of these. Shit. I think I owe a couple bucks back. So that only puts it at 90-ish here. Because I can't run up into Montreal. I've run over this track already. Actually, to there. And trying to see if there's something else I could do, but no, I had to come down this way. So I got to hit this, which gets me down to 90. I'm pretty sure I could have beaten that, but I'm just going to give the cash back. This ends up being like within $20 between these two. That could have been the difference right there. Me not paying enough attention to the Susquehanna after that, but I'm assuming it's not that close. I think the Union has this, but just, the stock value thing. We'll see, because the Warren and Trumbull's up there too. The secondary Susquehanna's ahead. I don't know. I forgot to mention, and I meant to, part of the reason I came back to the game actually to finish it. I have weird things that motivate me. Yesterday I went shopping, great. But Friday night and yesterday I picked up a new addiction to another Flash game, and I've got like 3 of these stupid things I'm playing right now. They're, just time wasters, really. But once I start, once I get into a guild and all this crap, it's like much, much harder for me to stop playing. And I don't know, there's something, you're advancing, you're getting better, whatever. In a way, it's kind of like your massively multiplayer, I mean, it really kind of is, online games where you're playing a character, except here you've got more than one and they're fighting in groups and stuff. But it's just like, it feels like such a waste of time that'll never end. I guess that's the biggest thing. The computer games I play, I know that, I'm going to finish them. And I can say, yeah, I'm done, good. But with these damn things, they drive you onward, and you're like waiting, oh, how long do I have before I build this building or before I upgrade, how much time do I have to stay on? And you just, I don't know. The early part's the worst because it's played like a regular computer game in the sense that you're kind of playing the whole time. But I don't have time to maintain 2 or 3 of these. I have one of them is really kind of lightweight. I can say fuck it anytime I want to it, I say. But man, that's part of the reason that this is taking me a while to finish this last round. Although, well, the last operating round I'm just going to do, and then I'm going to wrap up and whatever. But I had plans, this was every Friday I take off now for the rest of the year. And I had plans to, play out this, get it done yesterday after shopping, and then start something else. And that's just not going to happen, I don't think, because once I finish this, I'm going to end up going back to my games, and they take up several hours a day, and it's such a fucking waste. The company's nothing exciting with them. They ran the same runs, did nothing new. There really was nothing to improve on them, and they can't help anyone else because this is the end of the game. The Arcade Nautica managed to go up twice. The Westchester only once, for what that's worth. Just means that, these companies that started with less cash make a better return on their money at the end of the game. Well, maybe not. So here, I'm going up 30 in stock value. Here, I'm going up 20. So a little bit better, but, it all depends on where you're sitting. So now it's time to calculate everything out and figure out who the hell won. Just looking at cash, it's gonna be close. It's gonna be real close. But he's got a couple $100 here. These are each 5, right? And that probably evens them up. I think it's gonna be within $400. Okay, so figured out cash, which is pretty obvious anyway, with player 4 at 37.21, player 5 at 35.52. Everyone else well below, and that's pretty obvious from the locations. Stock values, well, we see it's pretty close to over here. Well, we see it's close between the 2 players, which is what I was saying. Not close to over. It's very close, actually. And if you're doing the math in your head, you can see just how close. Player 6, over there with the Elgin and Joliet, managed to collect up a total value of stock that's approximately in the same range as these guys. But he doesn't have the cash value. And then when we sum it all up, we're within about 50. Wow. That's real close. And player 5 came in the lead. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, so player 5 was the person with the Susquehanna who I kind of suspected there might be a more valuable run, but I gave up $2 a share from the calculation I thought I had because it was cheating, but I just didn't want to keep working to try to get close to that 93 or 92 or 93 that the union got on it. So, I mean, we're talking about a really minuscule difference there, $12 or so, not not the 50, but it was going to be close. So what happened? Well, first of all, we can look at the simplest thing, which is, look, the two people who won had two companies each with two trains on one of their two companies. That's a pretty damn decent setup. And, they didn't completely screw themselves. One of them, had low stock value on one of their companies, but they had more cash, so it evens out. So basically, they managed their trains well. And this is very different from the first time I played, where I did not allow train where I didn't understand the rules. I skipped a couple of pieces or didn't absorb them properly. Where I didn't allow shifting trains between companies, and I did allow you to hold as much stock in one company as you wished. So this gave more of an 1830 type feel, where you can kind of juggle things around by having a couple of companies, and if you do it right, you get something really sweet out of it. You get extra shares that you're able to hold, therefore producing more money in the final rounds of the game. And, if you work it out right, you get two permanent trains on one of your companies and a permanent train on the other one, and just end up in a sweet position. Other people tried more staid progression. Although, I have to say, lost a company. Did not kick off with heavy money to begin with. And then here, I think, didn't we have a lost company there? I seem to feel that we did. Let's look at what I got rid of. I mean, here are two companies, but failed to get that correct alignment. Would have gotten it eventually, but I mean, even if you just keep playing, that's not going to catch up to the people who have it established, right? The Grand Trunk. Who the hell had that? I don't remember. Alton and Southern was over here, and he kind of crushed that and damaged himself. Providence and Worcester was allowed. Yeah, so that was his other company. He allowed that to float away without taking full damage on it. He lost stock value on it, but that's not a terrible plan, right? To use a company in that way. New York, Orient and Western was up here. He had to pay on that. Bessemer and Lake Erie. Who the hell had... I have the feeling he ran three companies. He ran two companies into the ground. Maybe more. Because the Stroudsburg was somewhere too. Shit. And that's all we had is these. But, I mean, yeah, we saw the destruction of some companies. Now, some of this was merger. So the Alton and Southern and the Stroudsburg merged together, which didn't save that combination. They had too much loan, etc. on them. The Bessemer and Lake Erie, I think, was an attempt to save this all. And it worked. It kept him from folding under the game. But he ended up in last place by a fair amount. But the difference between first and second, which were essentially equivalent, and then third and fourth. Oh, wait a minute. We're forgetting something. There was another player. That other player, I think, was the Grand Trunk and the Bessemer and Erie. And they just fucked themselves. And they lost one of their companies to liquidation because they went bankrupt. So, yeah. So the Alton and Southern and Stroudsburg were with the Boston and Albany. The Bessemer and the Grand Trunk were in a player who just dissolved. So okay, he didn't do that badly compared to that one. But yeah, it looks to me like you can do the same kind of thing, that the same basic goals of play that you have in an 1830 game apply to this. Now, am I really, fair with that? Well, you got more ways to play. There's no question about that. I mean, but the simple fact that you can shift trains between companies easily means that you have a lot of room by starting new corporations to stack your trains the way you want them. And then it comes down to the train timing, the loans, and the other mechanisms in the play. But the base core thing that you're aiming to do feels very similar. Whereas the first time I played, it did not. The idea of trying to crash, to manipulate companies so that you got an extra train onto a company was a very, very difficult thing. And basically you had to do it just by running that company well, or through the acquisition process, which might mean taking on, that company's loans or whatever, or, I mean, it's probably not going to liquidate with a train on it. Who bought the corporation with the train, the Bessemer? I think this guy did. That whoever got it, that was a hell of a bonus. And that, if it was Susquehanna, that saved his bacon. But if it was this guy, it got him his extra train. So that was a weird situation where there was the Susquehanna bought the Stroudsburg one. So the Union is the one who bought the Bessemer, I think. Not sure. There were a number of things that went down. So it might be the Joliet that got it, in which case, wow, he saved his ass with it, and that's it. I'm having trouble remembering these things. But yeah. All right, we'll come back with a review for what it's worth. Again, second play, and this is a significantly different game from most of the 18xx's. Yes, I know, I make this statement about, well, you're aiming for the same thing as you are in 1830. Yeah, but the loans, the acquisition rules, and then some of the other stuff like the mergers and stuff, the partial capitalization and the particular mechanism that works with that, and the ways of getting money into your companies and everything, it's all plays very differently from anything else. It's just, I thought it played even more differently. Closer, in some ways, closer to the you can't rape companies games, where, like the last one I played, and some of it felt that way. I don't know what GMT put out. It's not 46. I can't remember what the hell it was. Maybe 62, something like that. I don't know. There's so many of them now that I can't keep them straight in my head. I used to be on sort of the core ones that came out from publishers, like Avalon Hill, and Mayfair, and then of course the 1835, which wasn't. But as more and more are coming into my my knowledge, things are getting harder and harder to distinguish between the games. It's kind of like, I don't know, trying to distinguish between all war games or something like that. But I find that easier to do. This is becoming a muddled mess, and it doesn't help that they all have, or almost all of them have, very, very similar names. 18 something, right? Okay. Anyway, I'll try to give this what review I can. But with the limited amount of play that I had, one game played wrong that was really, really intriguing to me. Actually, more intriguing than this. This felt too much like an 1830 game to me in a lot of ways. Just that capability to shift the trains around, to haul your ass out of the fire very easily. The first time I played it, nobody went bankrupt. Companies collapsed, obviously. That's just going to happen in this game. Nobody went bankrupt, but so, I mean, in part because nobody could engineer the train rush in the same way. The trains came out in a much more stately fashion, and the players who were playing very conservative games did very well compared to how they usually do. So, certainly by taking away that train selling option between companies, you could create a very different game. Now, I think that also lurked in conjunction with being able to hold 100% of a company, which has its own problems. So I don't. The problem with the 100% of a company, well, hold as many shares as you like of a company. The good thing about it is that you can protect your stock price with your own capital. You don't have to rely on the corporation's money, which is hard to do that with. And it created sort of an 1870 type dynamic, which I really, really liked. The bad part about it, I'm trying to remember what that is. There was something that made a real problem with that. Oh, yeah. If somebody shorts you, you can defend your company and you can screw them because there's no more shares available for them to buy, and you can just hold all the shares. Now, that can happen normally anyway. But it depends on the number of players. If there's 5 or 6 players, well, one person has 50-60% of the company. Let's say somebody shorted it. That means there's 4 players who each hold 1 share. You're right at the limit right there of what people will want to hold. And chances are you're not shorting the company when somebody else... you're not going to have a short holding in a company when other people are holding that company. That probably doesn't happen. Although we did see an example of it here. In fact, the shorts were a lot weaker here than they were in the game that I played, which is kind of odd. But the reason they were a lot weaker is because of that capability of shifting trains around, I think, creating more capital so that, or creating more capital within the company, being able to run half, whatever, pay off your loans and everything, and, oh, look, you're losing money on that short. That doesn't mean the short's not an opportunity to take out a loan at some cost, no matter what. But, and then that is probably still worth it if you can pretty much assure that it's not going to go skyrocketing through the roof, which to some extent you can by shorting heavily enough to drop its value. You're probably going to not lose too much money off of it. Anyway, unless people gang up to buy it out, or the company has resources you're not aware of. All right, I guess that's it for the actual playthrough, wrap, whatever, and I'll come back for that review.